All right, so we're back, part two, covering off where we left off, which was my number four. My number four, as I mentioned, Twice Familiar Love. So, again, I heard that one song from the album, from social media, and like I said, he told me to check out the entire album, right?
Right.
And by checking out that entire album is how it ended up here at number four, which I never thought I would ever say that I'd have this genre anywhere in like my top of a listing,
Right.
But really, that's just how great of a listen this album really was, from the vocals to the instrumentals to the overall vibe and enjoyability of this album. It was just really great and had really great replay value, because it wasn't just, oh, I listened to it once, enjoyed it, and told about it. It was like I found myself going back to the album like a couple of times, and like, especially because I think one thing that factors into it is because while some songs that they have are full English, the others are, obviously probably in Korean,
Right.
So I think what tied into it too is that it was something, because I wasn't going to get distracted by like, singing along to the lyrics and stuff. It was something I was able to really put on in the background while trying to get like finals work done.
Yeah.
So it was like I found myself going back to the music on there a lot, and like it was surreal to me, because I was like, I never would have thought, I would be into this type of music, especially because of the perception it gets online.
Right.
But I was finding myself going back to a lot of tracks, with the highlights being the tracks The Feels, Fall in Love Again, and Espresso. And like it just really broadened my perspective on this genre of music, because like what the main thing it kind of showed me was a lot of the mainstream criticism it gets, I don't think it's necessarily deserved. Because like by this I mean like I think a lot of people tend to judge the genre before even like giving it a shot. Like it's one thing to listen to music and say, oh, you don't enjoy it, and you're just not a fan of it. But then it's another thing to not even listen to something at all and still throw judgment and hate towards it.
Yeah, I get you.
Like, it's one thing for us to rag on, Certified Lover Boy because we actually gave it a shot. It's another thing to just see people hating on it because, oh, it's Drake, and not even give it a listen, and decide. Or like the people who, obviously this isn't calling out the man himself, because I'm gonna be honest, I actually kind of enjoy a lot of his videos, but like Anthony Fantano.
Oh yeah.
Like a lot of people, will solely wait for his opinions on an album before deciding their own, Or in turn, people getting mad at him for his ratings of an album when it's his opinion, And like similarly, I'm not saying that, people should be forced to like the genre of K-pop, but I think a lot of people kind of ride the wave, of like whatever is like the popular opinion, which is like, throwing a lot of criticism at it.
Yeah.
And like a slight criticism also might be that they just might not understand, because again, it's a language barrier type thing. But like to me, that I don't know, I've never understood the whole language barrier thing when it comes to music. Like, how should language stop you from enjoying a song?
Right.
Because I mean, like this is the big one. It's like, come on, what makes it any different than people enjoying anime openings and like endings? Like the songs that come from anime. It's like,
yeah.
You don't understand the lyrics there, but still can enjoy the song, right?
Right.
And like, I think all foreign music really sees it. Like, Spanish music and just probably music from anywhere in the world. It's like you can't expect it to be in English because it's their culture, right? Like the world doesn't speak English as much as it is the main language of the world. Technically, it's like that isn't the norm, really. Those people still speak the languages that are in their areas. And so you're gonna see their music use their language, because it's not like it's when they're making music, it's not for the mainstream appeal, especially of the appeal of the West,
Yeah.
And so that was one thing I went into with an open mind, was like, hey, it's not gonna be in English, but that never stopped me from enjoying things,
Yeah.
So like I said, I'm in no way really a K-pop fan, but like this album just kind of broadened my eyes to the genre, because it was like, hey, this is pretty enjoyable. And honestly, there was some songs on there that I was like, hey, they hold a similar vibe to other genres I listen to. And the other point I brought up was, hey, I told my friend, I'm like, it's not a guarantee because everyone's music opinions are different, and tastes are different. But I guarantee if a lot of these songs were in English and sung by like a mainstream artist like Taylor Swift, they'd get all the love and fan appeal, But because I don't know, maybe there's some undertones there, but because it's from foreigners, and you kind of get what I'm hinting at,
Yeah, I
like
get you.
there's maybe some undertones there as to why, at least the people who don't give it a shot aren't are very critical of the music,
Yeah,
because like I said, like I'm not trying to offend anyone, but like it's one thing to give it a shot and say you don't like it. It's another thing to just completely throw hate and judgment towards it without even, knowing what you're talking about,
true, true, true.
And that can be applied to anything in the world, really, food, traveling, even, I want to say, like, like people who talk down on traveling to certain areas. But I mean, actually, no, never mind. Let me retract that because, sometimes you got to rely on other people's opinion,
Right,
But,
right.
like with food, people dogging on certain styles of food without ever trying it, uh, even certain anime genres, like going back to our tier list on it, there's probably like certain genres there that like get dogged on unnecessarily,
Right.
I mean, like I said, it can just be that thinking can be applied anywhere, but again, we'll move on from there. Like I said, surprise pick probably to a lot of people who know me, but like again, if you do know me, you should know I'm very open to music,
Yeah.
But so number 3.
For my number 3 pick, I'm okay. All right, so for my number 3 and number 2, they're both gonna be obscene. But for my number 3, I'm gonna go with the Street of Dreams by the Bill Charlap Trio. Again, it's jazz. Again, my bad. But again, for some reason, this entire year I've been just looking at jazz albums. But this one I really liked a lot because it basically like revitalizes like the really old school how would you say it, like muffled trumpet, muffled saxophone with the piano playing in the background. But they're able to do it so perfectly that it feels like it's like the 70s or the 80s. You're in a bar and these guys are just playing music in the background. You're drinking a cup of Joe or something like that, right? Like these songs are able to like rehash you into the past and give you like a feeling of how it was back then, but giving it a modern twist with with their like their how would you say their experiences of playing with like for over like 20 years, like 24 or 25 years at this point. There's a lot of replay value on this one, personally, only because of like the Duke or songs like "What Do You Do for the Rest of Your Life." Like those go hard. Not banger hard, but like they soothe the soul. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That's my pick. That's my pick.
nice. It sounds like a really enjoyable album.
Yeah.
My number 3 is Polo G's Hall of Fame 1.0. He recently came out with a deluxe to it called 2.0, but I'm considering them separate. And, if I included it, it would probably... I mean, I think even if I included the 2.0, it would still stay here, But I think it would maybe decline a bit just because, like, if I include 2.0, it adds more tracks that I maybe didn't enjoy, Because the thing with 1.0, and like it happened on 2.0 a bit too, but my thing with 1.0 for Polo G's Hall of Fame was it was similar to Donda, where there was just I enjoyed like a ton of the tracks, but there was also like it just seemed like the ones with features I just didn't enjoy a lot, or like it had that similar feel where it's like I just didn't like a lot of the features on certain songs and wish it was solo tracks,
Right.
But along with that, what this album really did well was have great storytelling to it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, there was, like, one track on it that, like, specifically was just all about storytelling, like, telling a story from beginning to end, you know?
Right.
And along with that, you know, it had great beats and a great overall sound, and it had real great replay value with tracks like Toxic, Bloody Canvas, and Heart of a Giant, which, you know, Heart of a Giant really has been probably one of my most listened to tracks just because, you know, it has a good feature that fits, like, the similar vibe and really tone of Polo G and Rod Wave. And it's just a great song that's so easy to come back to because it has a really nice sound to it, you know, and both artists do really well with one another on the song, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just really easy to come back to as it has a good, enjoyable sound overall as an album. And so, like, it's my number 3.
Okay, I got you.
What about your number 2, Dom?
For my number 2, I would have to go with Alison Russell's "Outside Child." It's another, again, it's a jazz album, but this time it's more melodic per se. It's more of a musical memoir, if that makes sense. It's a solo debut, but it's one of those songs that are like super, how would you say it, super melodic in terms of explaining a story of her like previous years with, you know, dealing with, you know, having how would you say it, emotional trauma with the fact that she was abused as a child back then, but she's able to turn that into music, and the way she does is being able to open on, like, how would you say it, like, how would you say it, a hard trending beauty, if that makes sense. I don't know, I have no idea what I just said, but think of it in the way that someone is able to put like all like years of like sadness and stuff like that into something beautiful, you know, making something out of nothing. Being able to put like years of what she went through into nice music. The vocals are beautiful, you know. I can't say not. I'm not sure if people will like it only because of, again, it's a jazz album and it came out this year. But like the music that she puts out, she's able to craft it very nicely. Although it is very dark, it feels dark. It feels dark in terms of like some of the notes and the vocal tones that she displays and performs. But this one, like, it is really deep. And yeah, that's all I gotta say. Banger.
That's your number 2, right?
Number 2, yes.
All right. My number 2 is Juice WRLD's Fighting Demons, and it's going to be funny to a lot of people because this is just a recently released album, like literally a couple days. I think it came out on the 10th. You know? But that is just a testament to how much I enjoyed this album and Juice WRLD overall as an artist, that I've only had 3 days with the album and yet it's in my top 10. And, you know, the reason being, you know, is that, like, I just like the overall story that he tells throughout the tracks, you know? And it's something that we discussed when we reviewed the sort of, like, preview track to the album, Already Dead, you know?
Right.
And that with the name of the album, Fighting Demons, and, you know, like, it's about basically, you know, even though he's passed now, it's a lot of the songs, you know, are about, you know, his battles, you know, Juice WRLD's battles, you know, with, like, and, like, that's a common theme really throughout his discography, is the battles he went through, you know? And it's honestly one of the things that put me off of his music at first, because I don't know if you know the YouTuber I'm Dante.
Oh, yeah.
But when he originally, like, was reacting to Juice WRLD's music, he held a very similar view to mine, and that was, you know, hey, the music sounds, like, really nice, you know, like, the sound of it all. But the content, like, when you're really listening to it, you know, it was like, it's tough to listen to, you know, because, like, one of the things that, like, especially, like, early on in his music was that, it just included too much talk about drug use, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it sounded like, oh, it's just another guy rapping about drug use. But as over time, as you just continue to listen to the music and its evolution, you got a whole new meaning than just some guy rapping about his drug use and really drug abuse.
Right.
And what you got was like, yes, on the surface level, it just sounds like a lot of music talking about drug use and drug abuse. But the grand story really being told, and what makes that story even darker with his passing, was you get the story of a man who was dealing with his own demons and was self-aware of the fact that these weren't the correct outlets he should be using, but himself and the people around him just allowed it to get to the point where he can't put it down, you know? Like his different avenues that he was using. And he was self-aware and fully open about his battles with mental health and, you know, the coping mechanisms he used on his track. And that's kind of why it makes his music, even especially this album, such a difficult listen to after his death. Because it's like, you just kind of sit there and like, he knew himself that this wasn't the correct outlets to use, you know? Like, so many times does he say that he doesn't, like, you know, not only on this album, but even older albums, you know, it's like, he talks about that, like, I don't want to be using this stuff, but, like, it keeps tempting him back into it, you know? Like, you know, it's like, he knows that, like, I remember on one track, I don't think it was on this album, but there was, like, a track where he basically said, you know, it's like, I know that if I keep taking, like, these pills, they're gonna take me. But, you know, at the same time, it was like his only coping mechanism. And it's like, you know, going back to our review of Already Dead, you know, it's like, it's that sort of self-anger of like, how did no one like help him out, you know? And even if you want to use that excuse of like, oh, you know, oh, he didn't want to help, or like we tried our best to help, you know, I always go back to, even though it's controversial, and a lot of people don't think it's the best view to have, I really kind of go back to Tyler One's reaction to when that streamer Wreckful died.
Oh, right.
Where he was like, you know, there's no such thing as, you know, never doing enough to help, you know? Like, his way of thinking was, you know, you get them help even if they don't want it, you know? And I get, like, a lot of people may be like, oh, that isn't our responsibility to get them help, you know?
Right.
But I think the view he was trying to get that maybe people didn't recognize it enough was that if you get to a point where the person just definitely shows, like, a sign that they aren't okay, you know, like they are potentially a danger to themselves, then at that point it doesn't become a thing about what they want anymore, you know? Because at that point all that matters, that should matter at that point, is keeping that person alive, you know? And like similarly, you know, again, I don't know what happened on backstage or like behind the scenes with Juice WRLD, you know, but like if I was any of those people hearing a lot of those songs he recorded, I would have stopped him right there and then, you know, and been like, dude, are you okay? Do you need help? You know, and seeing a lot of the drug use he like did, you know, it would have been similar of like, dude, it's not even a thing of do you want it, it's like you're a danger to yourself. I think we really need to like put you into rehab, like not even like through his own means. And I know like I think that's a thing, like it has to be through their own means, but it's like it really shouldn't when it comes to the point of like, yo, this man's a danger to himself, you know?
Yeah.
And like, you know, the one thing that just really like kind of shows me that like somewhat people weren't as helpful was that, you know, they're coming out with a documentary and like the guy, like one of the people behind it was like, oh, you aren't gonna like a lot of what you see. And it's just like, why were you even recording it to begin with then if no one was gonna like what they were seeing? Why don't you step in and be like, hey, maybe this isn't a good idea of what you're doing, you know? Forget the documentary, forget whatever. It's like, step in at one point, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, sorry for straying far from what this is really about, but, you know, it's kind of hard not to talk about that type of stuff when talking about this album, because, like, again, it's about his fight with demons. It's why it's called Fighting Demons, you know?
Yeah.
The man had his demons. He wasn't perfect, and he himself was self-aware of the fact that he was struggling to overcome these battles, because it was, like, it's such a sad thing to say, but he was self-aware, but just couldn't find the strength to fight against it, you know.
Yeah, I got you. I got you.
And to finish it off, I would just say, you know, Already Dead was obviously a highlight, which is why we did we did our review of it as a solo track. But Rockstar in his prime was just, it was such a really good song to me, a really good highlight, one I keep going back to. And the song overall is really good, you know. And the only thing I'll say before we go to our number ones is to the people who complained that, oh, they already like, can you believe this, Dom? There was people complaining about the album because it had leaks and that they already heard them.
Really?
Yeah, and so everyone was like, "Hey, if you're complaining that it had leaks, then here's our solution to you. Stop listening to the leaks." You know, even people who had heard the leaks were complaining because what was the thing they were happy about? Hey, they're no longer leaks; they're finally officially released, and I don't have to go to like YouTube or SoundCloud to hear them. You know.
Wow, bro.
But yeah, that's my number 2. Juice WRLD's Fighting Demons, number 1 time, the moment everyone's been waiting for.
Damn.
What's your number?
Yeah, my bad. I think for my number 1. I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say something about like before, but never mind.
No, we're doing number 1s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. My bad. All right, so again, technically it's not jazz, but it's like modern. I believe this is like number 1 in like some like websites. But sometimes I might be an introvert by Little Sims. I think this one was like really nice to me. The replay value was pretty good. The way she incorporates like jazz and Afrobeat and a bit of hip hop and some soul and R&B in songs like "I Love You, I Hate You" and "Woman," for example. I think those songs are like really well made, and like in the current modern era we have at the moment, especially the fact that she's a UK rapper. This song, I mean, this album, being released not too long ago, back in September, I think was really it was like a driving point per se. Only because it's like one of those albums that you don't really hear in the spotlight. Because before this, she had another album, Drop 6, by Little Sims. It wasn't really heard. But now with something that might be an introvert, which mostly plays along with the, how would you say, the story of her being a woman, being an introvert in life. It's very, how would you say it? I'm not sure how to explain it, but it's very like confessional per se, being truthful, speaking from the heart. Being, how would you say it, very expressive about her emotions, about herself past, especially when talking about her father, previous lovers, and stuff like that. But but the entire album basically all aligns up back to herself and what she's done, and how she's dealing with it, and how she's dealt with all of her problems, in her life. And I think that this might be, an absolute banger of an album. Only because I don't really hear that many people talking about it. I'm not sure if Anthony Fantano has reacted to it, but I've seen other critics say that this is an absolute, 10 out of 10. Some, giving it 7s, 8, 9s. But yeah, I would say this is my number 1 album. And being able to incorporate jazz, R&B, soul into like music, into the modern era, with a bit of rap here and there. But that's my number 1. How about you, Jay?
So very similar to you. My number 1 is probably from an artist that not a lot of people know about. I found out about him through a YouTuber's intro and outro. And others may know him because his music is featured on Rocket League, and that is due to probably, again, some people knowing him from his time under the Monster Cat label.
Oh, right.
But my number 1 album is Tristam's With Love Until We Die album. This is my number 1 album of the year. And it's truly like a display of evolution from an artist,
Right.
because though he was known as one of like the Monster Cat Monster Cat like artists that though they did kind of like that dubstep EDM esque like that, like Monster Cat is known for.
Yeah.
He always found a way to like incorporate lyrics into it, and basically like kind of like like the sounds of maybe like pop or like even maybe R&B type like lyrics into it.
Yeah.
I want to say like incorporating that sound into like the dubstep, again EDM esque like genre of it.
Yeah.
And like it's funny because iTunes and I think Spotify classify like the album as like it says ambient, like having an ambient sound, because like there are a couple tracks in here like that include like those like like kind of like sounds you wouldn't expect to be on here, but like he combines again like that dubstep and EDM esque genre with like soulful lyrics and a very like pop esque sound,
Right.
and like he kind of still steps away from like that EDM genre, but he still kind of incorporates it really well into a lot of songs.
Yeah.
And like the only way I can really describe this album and the songs on it are beautiful, because like that's just truly the way to describe the songs, and like it just has amazing sound, amazing lyrics, and really like with more analysis maybe you can see a general story being told throughout the tracks, and it just has really great replay value, and it's been an enjoyable one. And like it's honestly a sleeper, because like even when I was coming up with this list, I was like, maybe I know it's gonna be on this list for sure, but I was like, I wonder where it's gonna be, and it ended up being number one, because it was like the more I looked at the track list, I realized it's a perfect album. It's short in the sense that it's only 12 tracks, but it's still like filled to the brim with such enjoyable tracks. Like I say, it's a 12 out of 12 on all of it. It's a straight up hit, 10, and it's an album that I can say for sure has longevity with me, and that like to show like a testament to its greatness, that like if it had been any other year it still would have stacked up pretty well and been at the top.
Yeah.
And it's an album that just shines above the competition this year for me and ranks number one, because it was like it was not only just a great sounding album, but it really hit different and like connected on another level with me.
Right.
Because it's like a lot of the songs in this album were about like freedom in a sense, wanting this escape, wanting like one of the tracks 1992 is like it almost sounds like in a way he's like going back. I don't know his age, but like to me, like like in the track when he's talking about wanting to go back to 1992, it sounds to me wanting to go back to the beginning of it all, like that's when he was born, to get a reset, a restart,
Yeah.
and like I've felt that a lot about in my life, where it's like I wish I can do a reset and really change a lot of the things I did because of because they just generally weren't good things that I did,
Yeah.
and it's like I can relate to that a lot. And then like going back to the freedom aspect, it's like 2021 more than any was a year where I really struggled with the concept of freedom and what I wanted to do, like, and what I wanted out of life, and so it's like tracks like Over the Edge really kind of amplify that want for freedom, and that desire to just feel free in this life,
Yeah.
in a life where it seems like your time is so taken up by so many things, especially with me, how I've been so vocal that like my biggest gripe with school is just how much it makes me feel like I have no time to do things, where I could have nothing to do the entire day because I finished up my schoolwork, but yet I don't do anything because I feel like anything else is a waste of time, because it feels like every waking hour has to be spent doing some type of schoolwork or something like that,
Yeah.
But it's like this really amplifies those feelings of just wanting to be free from all that, wanting to be free from the restraints that certain things in life put on you, the the expectations that you may feel that someone has of you, you know, like going back to our discussions on school, you know, it's like there's expectations of other people rather than just focusing on yourself. And like I really just go back to this album a lot because it provides that sense of freedom, you know, that it provides that escape because it's just such a beautiful album. It's so relaxing, you know, and it allows you
Yeah.
to just truly give yourself that break and just think about like, you know, that like, hey, this is our break from all that. This is your time to just, you know, though it may only be in the land of make believe and dreaming, you know, here's the opportunity for you to just think about your freedom and think about, you know, being away from all the expectations and constraints of society, you know. And it's just a really beautiful album, and like it's my number one. And like I said, if it had released in any other years, maybe it might not have been number one, but it probably would still be anywhere at the top, you know.
Yeah, I got you.
But yeah, that concludes my my list, and that concludes really our list in general. I don't know, Dom. What would you say? Good year in general for music, down year. What would you say?
Personally, for me, I feel like the underground of music with my jazz picks, I feel like they were pretty good. In the mainstream world, I feel like we got Donda, absolute banger. You know, how do you call it? Tyler the Creator's, you know, Call Me If You Get Lost was pretty good during the summer. Absolute good hits. I'm not gonna lie. But I feel like for some reason, I don't know. Aside from Donda, I'm not sure if there was, you know, how would you say, like absolute bangers. You know, songs that you could like songs similar to Stronger by Kanye West. You know, back then. Like, are there songs today that are gonna be remembered just like, you know, Stronger or, you know, Daft Punk's music? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah,
that is definitely going to be a factor. Is what is going to be the longevity of these albums, you know? Which is why I kind of feel the same too, where it's like maybe the lesser known picks on this, like on my listing, are like show a testament to you know, a good quality year, but at the same time it's like the mainstream kind of also took a dive, you know?
yeah,
And I think people feel like that a lot in general about like music as of late, where it just feels like it's either slow or there's just not much to talk about. Like things really come and go quick.
right.
And maybe that's due to, you know, the fast-paced nature of how these artists release music, you know, where it's like other artists take their like time, you know. Like, I mean, haven't had an album from Kendrick Lamar in what, 4 years?
Yeah.
Haven't had a Frank Ocean album since like 2016, right? But you know,
Damn, it's really been that long?
yeah, I mean, that's partly due to, you know, the sad passing of his brother in that car accident, if you remember.
Yeah,
You know? So
true.
obviously, you know, but you know, even before that, it was still a while. But you know, obviously now it's like, of course, it's probably gonna take longer. You know, that guy. I mean, as some people have said, who even knows if he comes back to music? You know, because it's like that's such a tragic thing to happen in your life.
Right.
But you know, I'm just using that as an example. It's been since 2016 since people got an album from him. Trying to think of who else like has like taken a while to drop music, you know. But I can't really think of any that come to mind like right away. But you know, it's like in general, you know, it's just, you know, some artists take longer, some don't, and that maybe sets a precedent where because of how quickly a lot of other artists are dropping, people, you know, are so used to that they aren't used to waiting. But then when the wait is over, you know, you get some really good music. Like, you know, for example, with Donda, you know, all that wait, you know, some people might say it wasn't worth it, but other people will say it's worth it, you know?
Yeah.
But I think I want to say overall, it's like, it's in the middle. It wasn't necessarily a full-on, like, down year where there was just not much to talk about, but it also wasn't like, you know, those banger of years where it was like there was so much to talk about, you know, and, you know, there was albums being talked about even in the later years, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like if we had done this last year, I think it would have been similar, where it's like, there was definitely, like, maybe albums that were certified, like, top 5, but then it would have been a struggle for, like, trying to find other ones, you know?
Yeah.
But otherwise, that's been 2021. If more people want, we can do more top 10 lists to close out the year. I mean, who knows? Maybe it's something Dom and I discussed, but maybe we, like, once we're fully on break, maybe we record more than once a week just for the holiday season.
Yeah.
And we can crank out more of these, like, top 10-esque lists. But with that being said, I guess we'll close out here. Any last words, Dom?
I ain't got nothing else to say, Chief. I'll be honest. Good luck, everyone else who's also taking exams. I've just been recently administered an exam that's due in 2 days, but I'm gonna start it after the end of this recording.
All right.
That's all I got.
We'll close out here. I've been your host, Jack, joined by my fellow co-host,
Dominic Castillo.
Enjoy the music that you enjoy. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And with that being said, as always, if it exists, we have an opinion on it. Thank you, and we'll catch y'all in the next episode.